Hi, I'm Stella. Most people know me as the reliable sister, the one who always shows up when needed. My brother Marcus and I were in a car accident 3 months ago, and I just found out something that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Stella, are you coming over for dinner tonight? My best friend Valerie asked over the phone. Her voice had that forced, casual tone she used when something was wrong. Yeah, I'll be there around 7. What's going on? You sound weird. Just come over, okay? We'll talk then. When I arrived at Val's apartment, she wasn't alone. Her boyfriend Ethan and our mutual friend Derek were there too, all wearing matching expressions of concern. What is this? An intervention? I joked. But no one laughed. Sit down, Stell, Derek said, patting the couch beside him. Valerie paced in front of me. I heard something at work today. You know I'm in billing at County Hospital, right? Yeah. Well, I was processing some records from your accident, and I noticed something strange about the paramedic report. Ethan cut in. Val, maybe we should... No, she needs to know, Valerie insisted. Stella, according to the timestamps, both ambulances arrived at the scene at the same time. But there's a note that your father specifically paid the paramedics to take Marcus first. What? That's ridiculous, I said, but my stomach twisted. They took him first because he was bleeding more. Derek shook his head. The report says you both had similar injuries. Your oxygen levels were actually lower. There's more, Valerie continued. Your dad made a separate payment, cash, to the lead paramedic. I found the notation because they had to document it later for legal reasons. While you were left on the street? Ethan asked, his voice tight. 2 hours, I whispered, memories flooding back. I remember fading in and out, wondering why help wasn't coming. Your dad called the hospital 3 times during those 2 hours, Valerie said, each time asking about Marcus, not once about you. But my father told me both ambulances came at different times, I said, my voice shaking. He said they got to Marcus first because they happened to see him first. Derek took my hand. That's not what happened, Stell. Your father deliberately prioritized Marcus over you. I don't want to believe this, I said, pulling my hand away. Why would he do that? Because Marcus is the golden child, Ethan said bluntly. Always has been. But to pay someone to leave me there? That could have killed me. It nearly did, Valerie said quietly. Your medical report says you were minutes away from permanent brain damage when they finally got to you. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I need proof. Not just hospital notes. I need to hear it from someone who was there. I know one of the EMTs, Derek said. His name's Ryan. I can arrange for you to talk to him tomorrow. As the reality sank in, my vision tunneled. My own father had paid to have me left behind, bleeding on the asphalt. And then he had lied about it. To my face. For months. Stella? Valerie's voice sounded distant. What are you thinking? I looked at my 3 friends, their faces etched with concern. I'm thinking my father needs to learn that I'm not disposable. The next afternoon, I met Ryan the EMT at a coffee shop near the hospital. He was in his uniform, about to start his shift. Thanks for meeting me, I said as I slid into the booth across from him. Derek explained the situation. I remember that night clearly, Ryan said, turning his coffee mug slowly. I was on the 2nd ambulance. When we arrived, I was told to wait. By whom? Gary Dawson, the lead paramedic. He said your father had spoken to him directly. I leaned forward. What exactly did he say? That your father insisted we take care of your brother first, and that we should wait for additional support before treating you. Ryan looked uncomfortable. Gary said your father made it worth his while. And you just went along with this? Ryan's face reddened. I reported it afterward. That's why there's a record. Gary was suspended, but your father's influence got the whole thing buried. I'm still furious about it. Would you be willing to make a formal statement? Already did, but I'll do it again, Ryan said firmly. What happened that night was wrong. After meeting with Ryan, I went straight to my parents' house. My mother opened the door, surprise written across her face. Stella, we weren't expecting you. Where's Dad? In his study with Marcus? They're discussing summer internships. Of course they were. I pushed past her into the study where my father and brother sat like mirror images, both looking up with identical annoyed expressions. Stella, we're in the middle of something, my father said. Did you pay the paramedics to take Marcus first after our accident? I asked without preamble. The room went silent. Marcus looked confused, but my father's expression hardened. Who told you that nonsense? I have the hospital records and a statement from one of the EMTs. You paid Gary Dawson to leave me on the street while they took Marcus first. My mother appeared in the doorway. Walter, what is she talking about? Nothing, my father snapped. Stella's being dramatic as usual. I was unconscious for 2 hours, I shouted. The doctors said I nearly had permanent brain damage. Marcus stood up. Dad, is this true? My father's face flushed. I made a judgment call. Marcus's injuries looked worse. The paramedics said our injuries were similar, I countered. And you're not a doctor. You don't get to decide who deserves medical care. I was protecting my son, he shouted, finally dropping the pretense. And I'm your daughter, I yelled back. You left me to die on the street, my mother gasped. Walter, tell me you didn't do this. He did, I said, pulling out copies of the hospital records. And there's more. He called the hospital 3 times while I was still lying there, but he only asked about Marcus. Marcus took the papers from me, his hands shaking as he read. Dad, this says you paid him $500 to prioritize me. You wouldn't understand, my father said dismissively. A father makes difficult choices. Like choosing which child lives or dies, I asked bitterly. Don't be melodramatic, he scoffed. You're fine, aren't you? No thanks to you. My mother took the papers from Marcus, her face growing paler as she read. Walter, how could you? It wasn't a big deal, my father insisted. Stella's always been stronger. Marcus needed the care more urgently. That wasn't your decision to make, my mother cried. I looked at my brother. Did you know about this? No, Marcus said, looking genuinely horrified. Stella, I swear I didn't know. I believed him. For all his faults, Marcus wasn't cruel, just privileged and oblivious. Well, now we all know, I said, and I'm not letting this go. My father stood up, suddenly intimidating. What exactly do you plan to do? Everything I can, I promised, starting with a formal complaint to the medical board. You'll ruin this family over nothing, he shouted. You almost killed me. That's not nothing. Get out of my house, he hissed. Gladly, I replied, but this isn't over. 2 weeks later, I stood outside the hospital boardroom with my attorney, Patricia Diaz. Inside, the ethics committee was reviewing my case against my father and Gary Dawson. Remember, Patricia said, stay calm and stick to the facts. When we entered, I immediately saw my father with his lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. My father didn't meet my eyes. Gary Dawson sat on the other side looking nervous. Ryan was already there, along with several hospital administrators. Miss Hargrove, the committee chairwoman began, please tell us in your own words what happened. I recounted the accident, the long wait on the pavement, and what I'd learned afterward. When I finished, my father's lawyer stood up. This is clearly a family dispute being inappropriately brought before this committee, he argued smoothly. Mr. Hargrove made a split-second decision in a crisis situation. A decision that involved paying a paramedic to violate protocol, Patricia countered. The lawyer smiled thinly. Mr. Hargrove merely expressed concern for his son and offered a gratuity for expedited service. A gratuity that nearly cost his daughter her life, Patricia shot back. My father finally spoke up. Stella, this has gone far enough. You're embarrassing yourself and damaging the family name over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I repeated incredulously. You admit you paid him to take Marcus first? I made sure my son got prompt care. Any parent would do the same. For both their children, I corrected. Not just one. You've always been jealous of your brother's success, my father said dismissively. I laughed bitterly. This isn't about Marcus. It's about you deciding my life was worth less than his. That's not. It is exactly what happened, I interrupted. And then you lied about it for months. Ryan spoke up then. Mr. Dawson explicitly told us that Mr. Hargrove paid him to prioritize the male victim and delay care for the female victim. Gary Dawson shifted uncomfortably. I never meant for her to wait that long. But you took the money, I said. Your father was very insistent, Gary mumbled. My father stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Stella, I'm your father. I've provided everything for you your entire life. I made one decision in an emergency. One decision that shows exactly how you feel about me. I cut in. I was expendable, an afterthought. You're being dramatic. I almost died, I shouted, finally losing my composure. Miss Hargrove, the chairwoman said gently, we understand this is emotional for you. I'm sorry, I said, taking a deep breath. But my father needs to understand what he did. He compromised my medical care because he values my brother more. Then he lied about it and is now trying to dismiss it as unimportant. My father stood up. Stella, I'm sorry if you feel hurt, but you need to let this go. What good will come from pursuing this? Justice, I said simply. Accountability. I'm your father, he said, his voice softening into the tone he used when he wanted to manipulate me. I've always looked out for you. Except when it mattered most, I replied. I don't want your apology. I want consequences. You ungrateful, he began, then caught himself as he remembered where we were. But his mask had slipped and everyone had seen it. Mr. Hargrove, the chairwoman said coldly. That's enough. My father's face darkened with rage. This committee has no jurisdiction over my personal family matters. It does have jurisdiction over medical ethics violations and patient endangerment, Patricia pointed out. This is absurd, my father snarled, losing his composure entirely. Stella, drop this now or you'll regret it. The room went silent at the threat. Are you threatening your daughter, Mr. Hargrove? The chairwoman asked. I'm telling my daughter to stop this vindictive campaign, he snapped. By threatening her? Patricia asked. In front of witnesses? My father realized his mistake too late. I didn't mean... I think we've heard enough, the chairwoman interrupted. This committee will deliberate and issue our findings. Mr. Hargrove, I suggest you refrain from any further communication with your daughter that could be construed as threatening. As the meeting adjourned, my father tried to approach me, but Patricia stepped between us. My client has nothing more to say to you, she said firmly. For the first time, I saw fear in my father's eyes. 3 months later, I sat across from my mother at a small cafe downtown. So much had changed since the ethics committee hearing. How are you holding up? I asked her. She smiled sadly. One day at a time, the divorce proceedings are moving forward. I never wanted to break up your marriage, I said honestly. You didn't, she replied. Your father did that all by himself. I just couldn't look at him the same way after what he did to you. And Marcus? He's struggling with it all, but he's started therapy, which is good. He wants to meet with you when you're ready. I nodded. Maybe soon. The bell above the cafe door jingled and Patricia walked in, carrying a folder. Sorry I'm late, she said, sitting down. But I have news. The medical board has revoked Gary Dawson's license, and they've referred your father's case to the district attorney. Criminal charges? My mother asked. Patricia nodded. Reckless endangerment at minimum? Possibly attempted negligent homicide, though that might be harder to prove. I just wanted him to acknowledge what he did, I said quietly. Well, he'll have to do that now, Patricia replied. And there's more. 3 other families have come forward with similar stories about your father using his influence to manipulate medical care. 3 others? I was shocked. Your father has apparently been doing this for years, using his money and connections to decide who deserves care and who doesn't. My phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. Just saw your dad being escorted out of his office by police. It's on the local news. I showed the text to my mother and Patricia. It's really happening, I said. a mixture of vindication and sadness washing over me. "You did the right thing, Stella," my mother said, taking my hand. "I'm sorry I didn't protect you better." "We all trusted him," I said. "He was good at making people believe what he wanted them to believe." The cafe door opened again, and Derek and Valerie rushed in. "We came as soon as we heard," Valerie said, sliding into the booth beside me. "Are you okay?" "I'm getting there," I said. "Your father's lawyer called me," Patricia said. "He wants to discuss a plea deal. Your father is finally realizing the seriousness of what he did." "Does he want to apologize?" I asked. "He wants to make this go away," Patricia corrected. "But that's not happening." Derek squeezed my shoulder. "You stood up not just for yourself, but for everyone else he hurt." "I never thought I'd be strong enough to stand up to him," I admitted. "You've always been strong," my mother said. "He just never wanted you to know it." Later that evening, I stood on my apartment balcony looking out at the city lights. My phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hey," I answered. "I saw the news," he said. "Dad's being charged." "Yeah, I should have seen it," he said, his voice breaking. "All those years, the way he treated you differently, I just accepted it because it benefited me." "You didn't know about the accident," I reminded him. "But I knew other things weren't right. I just didn't want to see it." We were quiet for a moment, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. "Can we start over?" he finally asked. "Not as Dad's kids, but just as us?" I thought about it. "We can try." After we hung up, I thought about everything that had happened. My father would face consequences for his actions, real, legal consequences. He would never admit he was wrong, never truly apologize, but it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need his validation or his remorse. I had found my voice, my strength, and surprising allies along the way. Sometimes justice doesn't look like forgiveness or reconciliation. Sometimes it's simply about truth coming to light and wrong actions having consequences. What would you do if someone who should protect you betrayed you instead? Would you have the courage to stand up for yourself, even if it meant losing what you thought was your family?